Well, good morning, and thank you. So what I want to talk about this morning is how individuals, adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities can have literacy in their lives and lifelong learning opportunities. For the past 12 years, we've been working on a project where we wanted to see how individuals would be able to be part of a book club. So we started with the notion that why couldn't people with intellectual and developmental disabilities have an opportunity to be part of a book club? And so we spent, a group of us, myself and 4 or 5 other people, some individuals with disabilities and parents and administrators and so forth, 5 or 6 of us, we spent about 6-8 months thinking about, well, what would a book club for people with disabilities look like? How would it operate? Where would it be conducted, and so forth? And so finally we reached a point where we weren't sure about all those things, but we decided, well, we're just going to start it. So some members of our planning group said, we'll just start a book club. And we had been part of the process was to meet at Borders Bookstore. So when we were talking about a book club, we were meeting in a bookstore. And so the 2 people from our group, they started a book club. And our assumptions were that we would need to buy tape recorders, because the people in the book club, the people with disabilities, wouldn't be able to read much. And so we bought tape recorders. We thought, well, we weren't sure, but we thought eventually we might need reading teachers to teach the book clubs or to be facilitators for the book clubs. And we thought maybe we would meet like so-called typical book clubs. We would meet once a month, you know. So all of those assumptions were wrong. We realized we didn't need the tape recorders because people wanted to hold a book in their hands. If you realize that people with disabilities have been so disenfranchised, they haven't been thought to be adult learners, or readers for that matter. And so the fact of holding a book in their hand was incredibly empowering. It gave them a sense of, well, maybe I can read, you know, at whatever level. And so so they wanted to hold the book, they wanted to read the book, they wanted not to listen to the book, and we didn't need reading teachers to do the facilitating of the book clubs. And doing once a month was too confusing. It was too long between the sessions. So for 11 years now, we have been running book clubs for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we now have, from the original one, and we had another pilot one that started with a graduate student of mine and one other person. So we started with 2 book clubs in 2002, and now we have 250 book clubs, and they are all over the United States and in Europe and in Israel and in Canada and so forth. So the beauty of the book clubs is that there are 6 or 8 people typically in a book club, and they read once a week for an hour in a bookstore, or cafe, or coffee shop. The whole idea is that they not be behind a door somewhere, and that they not be apologetic about being in a public place and meeting together. And so we meet right in the middle of, not intentionally, but we don't go off to the side necessarily. We don't apologize for being in the public setting, and if people are bothered by our presence, then they can move. We have 2 volunteer facilitators in each book club typically, and those are people with all sorts of different backgrounds. They are retirees, they are students, they are college students, graduate students, undergraduate students, high school students, whatever, or people with disabilities. We have a number of our book clubs have facilitators who are people with disabilities, and they're great. You know, they help one another. So the book clubs meet once a week. and people get a cup of coffee or a donut or a brownie, and they sit together and they read for an hour out loud. So we read out loud and we talk about the book. And talking about the book enables people to express their ideas and their feelings and their opinions about what's going on with the subject matter of the book, but also what's going on with their lives. And so it's the beauty of the book clubs is that many people come to the book club because it's a social opportunity, a predictable social opportunity. They get support from their peers. Some people, that may be their primary motivation rather than reading, and vice versa. Some people come to the book club, in fact, wanting to read. That's why they're there. And some people come because they want a cup of coffee. So it could be everything in between. We find that every book club is different because people are different, and the makeup and culture of each of the book clubs is somewhat different. Some book clubs are more reading focused and some are more social focused. Many of the book clubs, after they read a book, which takes about 3 to 4 months, they do something generally. They may go for an outing. If the book is about a farm or something, they may go to a farm, or they may go to a pet store, or whatever the topic is of the book, to kind of, or see a movie, if they're reading The Wizard of Oz or things like that. So the beauty is that the clubs tend to be organic, that while there is a structure, and we have a book, the Next Chapter Book Club book that was published by Woodbine House, that kind of tells about how to do the book clubs, and we do trainings on the book clubs, how to start book clubs in local communities. They grow, and in that the people that are in them, the facilitators, tend to be very creative. They'll bring laptops, for instance, to the book club, or iPads. And if they're talking about a particular scene or a particular setting of some sort, or a word or whatever, they'll look it up. And they can see it, and it's live. And we typically read adapted classics because the print is a bit larger and the words are a little easier to understand and comprehend. What we have found is that there was a real shortage of literature, simplified language literature on adult subject matter. So we went ahead and wrote a book called Lucky Dogs, Lost Hats, and Dating Don'ts that was also published by Woodbine House, and it is a book of 14 short stories about everyday life, having bad hair, or waking up with a cold, or having difficulty in a relationship. And we did 3 focus groups before writing that book, and we wanted to get input from individuals and their family members and professionals about what they thought we should write stories about. And we thought, well, that people would want to know about health and welfare, health and wellness, and that they might want to know about employment and stuff. They didn't want to know that at all. They wanted to know about, relationships and love and different stuff. So that's kind of how we tailored the stories in the book. And they're very short stories that can be read usually in 1 hour-long session. So there's 3 main components of the book club. Meeting in the community, being in a community setting, in a kind of an inclusive setting, is incredibly valuable. I mean, we have book clubs that meet, they've been meeting 6, 8, 10 years. And so they've established a history. They've been in these environments for a long time. And not only do they get to know the baristas and the people, in these settings, but they also get to know the clientele, because a lot of people are creatures of habit. So what happens is we have instances where, for instance, in Louisiana, we have a club where every week a gentleman shows up, a retired gentleman, and he buys coffee for the book club members. That's just what he does. and nobody told him to do it. You know, he just did it. And then when he's not around or he's out of town, he has a friend come and buy coffee for the members. So it's just a very natural type of thing that evolves. We have a state policeman in Ohio, in Mansfield, who every week he takes his coffee break at the same time that the book club meets at the coffee shop. So he stops by every week and just says hi, and they become friends. You know, sometimes the employees will set up the tables for, you know, because what we do is we just kind of bring tables together and just, you know, sit around the table. So meeting in the community is just, there's disruptions, of course, from the clanking of the machines, the coffee machines and all that, but by and large, it's a really nice type of environment to meet in spite of the disruptions. It's way over, I mean, it just outweighed by everything. So that's one component. The second component is the literacy. You know, people having a chance to learn and grow. We talk about reading to learn rather than learning to read. So we're not teaching people how to read, we're not teaching. Our facilitators don't teach, they facilitate. It's the book club. That's not their book club. It's not the facilitator's book club. And so, but literacy is empowering. It's not just reading, by the way. It's writing, it's expression, it's all sorts of formal of social communication. So people have spiral notebooks sometimes. They write down vocabulary words. So it's just a wonderful opportunity to grow and learn and be with friends. And then that's the third piece, that social connectedness piece is so valuable, because oftentimes people with disabilities, they kind of come together, but they don't do this. They're doing this when they're together. They're doing parallel social stuff in the guise of it's a social outing. And kind of what got me spurred on this idea was being at Wendy's many years ago. Seeing a group of people with disabilities come to Wendy's as an outing, and they didn't talk to one another. You know, they were just there, and they ate, and then they left. So the idea behind the book club, and that's why we don't meet in restaurants, because one of our book clubs, actually, one of our very first book clubs in Defiance, Ohio, which is a Northwest community, a small Northwest community in Ohio, they didn't have a bookstore, a coffee shop, or cafe. They had Bob's Big Boy, and so the only place to meet was Bob's Big Boy, so they ended up going to Bob's Big Boy, spending 45 minutes ordering and eating their dinner, their lunch or dinner, or whatever time it was. And and they weren't leaving ample tips for the servers, and so it became a little bit difficult. And then eventually they moved to the college library, which has a coffee shop, and they meet there now, and they have been doing so for 10 years. And they usually get a big crowd. They usually get 12 to 14 people, just all different types of people. You know, people with disabilities, without, you know. So it's kind of a gathering place for them. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. That's what the book clubs are about. But the book clubs are not solely the only way that we, I think, as a profession, as advocates for people and with and for people with disabilities, I think that we need to really look at how we can enhance people's lives in very meaningful, purposeful ways that allow them to feel valued and also have support. And I'm increasingly impressed by the fact that people do really benefit from opportunities to get support from their peers. So there was a mention the other day about, you know, supported decision making. Well, I think the book club's a wonderful place for people to make social, you know, supported decisions, and for them to also be self-determined. I mean, you know, we give a lot of lip service to self-determination, but the book clubs embody that in a very real, I think, very real way. So we've just started within the last year or two another program called Jot It Down, and Jot It Down is similar in terms of its structure, an hour a week in the community with peers, but all about writing, oral written communication, any kind of communication, from blogs to letters to stories, whatever people want to write, either collectively or individually. And so, and we're really interested in, within that context, of beginning to help people express what they want in their lives, and how they can, and we believe that, people going forward as being self-determined and talking about what they want in their lives, which everybody's talking about now, it's sort of like, all of a sudden people realize that people should be self-determined. But anyhow, it's a matter of, I think, within these writing clubs, helping people to hone their statements about what it is they want, so that they can take those statements into their meetings and say, this is what I want. And I've thought about it. And it's not just something I've come up with within this meeting. This is something I've thought about, and I'm able to articulate, and my friends and peers have sort of supported me through the process of thinking through this statement. And it can be an oral statement, it can be a written statement, it can be a visual statement, it could be a portfolio, whatever. So thank you very much.